So welcome everyone. Welcome on today's webinar organized by CGIAR, AI in Evaluation, Inclusive and Ethical Processes. My name is Diana Tsekova and I'm an evaluation analyst with the independent evaluation function of CGIAR. Prior to this role, I spent 15 years at IBM focusing on business process improvements. That experience that continues to shape how I think about system, data, and impact until now. Today, I'm pleased to be here with two outstanding independent evaluators, Silva and Lea, who will bring their great expertise and insight to our conversation. Together, we will guide you through our session on integrating artificial intelligence into evaluation. We will explore highlights from the AI technical note that has been published yesterday, and I broadly shared it with you through an email yesterday. If you don't have it yet, we are going to share it as well in the chat. We are going to look at how AI actually works in practice, consider how to integrate it into evaluation processes, and examine some of the ethical and bias-related challenges we need to navigate carefully. I will also share a case study from a recent science group's evaluations to ground the discussion in real experience to have some practical background for us. And of course, we will set aside some time for your questions and discussions throughout the session. We will have two occasions when you can raise your questions, and we would be very happy if we can have an interactive session with you. We are looking forward to hearing your thoughts and reflections other than only us talking through the presentation. So let's get started. What is CGIAR? For those of you who might be new to CGIAR, CGIAR is a global research partnership for a food secure future dedicated to transforming food, land, and water system in a climate crisis. CGIAR is a network of 13 centers, which are relatively independent CGIAR centers, and you might have heard some of them individually or in relationship to CGIAR. They are largely located in the global south in Africa, Asia, South and Central America, except one center, IFRI, which is located in Washington, D.C. Next, please, Federica. Okay. CGIAR's programming is guided by the research and innovation strategy, and research and science are the two anchors of the research part of the portfolio. Till last year, the portfolio was delivered through free science groups and previously through platforms as well. I'm mentioning this because it will be important for you later on in the upcoming case study, so you hear it upfront how it relates to the case study. The CGIAR research and innovation strategy commits organizational change with 7 ways of working, making digital revolution central to our way of working. In that context, artificial intelligence particularly becomes important as it introduces both opportunities and, let's say, challenges to our evaluation practice. Okay, this visual provides the guides to understand where there is research preparation, ex-ante evaluation assessment of the research proposals, process and performance evaluation, including quality of science as a criterion in addition to the OSDC criteria. You can see here what guides the MEL efforts in CGIAR, especially highlighting here the evaluation policy and framework and the AI technical note that you might have access to right now. The independent evaluation function of CGIAR is part of the independent advisory and evaluation services. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit our journey with AI and our technical note. We started small, experimenting with AI tools during our 24 science group evaluations. But then we got curious. The early results were promising to us and made us wonder what else could be possible. As we explored further, we realized we had to keep pace because the tech landscape was really shifting right beneath our feet. Soon the lines began to blur. We were wondering where exactly does the tool end and human judgment begin, and how we can navigate across them. And perhaps most unexpectedly, we had a quality surprise. These tools are becoming surprisingly good, and they are improving very fast, let's say. Yeah. So today I want to highlight a key technical note, the AI technical note that provides a framework for integrating AI into evaluation processes while maintaining integrity and ethical standards. First, it aims to inform practice by equipping evaluators with foundational AI concepts and terminology. Secondly, it seeks to guide future policy, guided by the evaluation framework. Integrating AI tools requires, let's say, a governance approach to balance innovation with ethical responsibility. Of course, ensuring transparency, fairness, accountability, and inclusivity as well. This technical note encourages the guides CGIAR evaluators to ethically explore, negotiate, and experiment with AI tools. Testing, testing, testing. Finally, it provides practical tools, including recommended software for evaluation tasks, tested prompt templates for effective AI prompting, and curated learning resources for ongoing support. We believe that together, competencies, tools, and regulations are the keys to unlocking responsible AI use in our evaluation processes. And with this, I give the floor to Lea, who will explain us the integration of AI into the evaluation processes.
Thank you,
Lea.
Jana. Good morning, everyone, from a beautifully gray Oregon this morning, where I'm connecting from. I'm very excited actually to talk with you all today about the guide and how we thought about the integration of AI into evaluation practice. We tried to keep it all as practical as possible, so not just offer theoretical discussion, but actual real practical insights. And what I'm going to share with you more today is our journey of, let's say, thoughtful experimentation. We're not really advocating for rushing to adopt AI everywhere, but what we're saying is more, don't quite sit on the sidelines. Ask some critical questions like, can AI generally enhance our evaluation work? How do we maintain human insights and ethical judgment? How do we ensure that we can adopt these powerful tools, but don't maybe exclude or harm the communities we serve? So over the next few minutes, I'll be walking you through what we've learned about AI and think and show you some concrete applications across the evaluation cycle, explain maybe how these tools actually work, and share some research about AI bias that maybe will keep us grounded. So this section is really about building competencies and not just adopting technologies. So having given the spiel now, let me start with a reality check about AI. We have a tendency to think that this is brand new. It's not. It's been quietly working behind the scenes for over a decade. Think your Netflix recommendations, Zoom meeting summaries. I have a friend who's been using Otter AI, for example, since probably 2018. I think what really changed in the last few years has been accessibility. With the launch of ChatGPT in November 2022, it really became mainstream. So suddenly you no longer needed a computer science degree to use these tools, but everyone could try them out, and actually more and more started hitting the market. I think the part that is really crucial for the work that we do as evaluators is that we should be mindful of the fact that AI benefits are concentrated at this point in well-resourced areas, and are potentially widening global divides. Since most AI is built in the global north, it will embed values and assumptions that don't necessarily translate to diverse contexts where we as evaluators may work. And this is also why we've approached AI as an enhancement tool, not a replacement for labor. It's about asking how can this new tool help us navigate complexity while ensuring that we don't leave anyone behind. So let's start with thinking about what can AI then actually do in evaluation practice. We made this diagram that really shows the 5 key areas where we're seeing practical applications. So from research to evidence management and all the way through to dissemination and reporting. I think what is really exciting here is the range of possibilities. So in research and evidence management, we're using AI for academic searches that can process hundreds of papers simultaneously. And knowledge management systems will let you query entire document collections. Think about asking, what do all our stakeholder interviews say about sustainability barriers? And then you get a synthesized answer. For evaluation design, AI can help generate methodologies. It can develop data collection instruments. And to be honest, it can even help you draft those really boring administration documents that none of us ever want to do. In evidence collection, you can do real-time analysis of stakeholder interviews as they happen, multilingual engagement that breaks down language barriers without necessarily having to go through a translator. In the analysis phase, well, this is actually, in my experience, where things get quite interesting. You could do qualitative coding across massive data sets. There's very cool things happening also with pattern recognition that spots connections that maybe you may have missed. Sentiment analysis that tracks how stakeholders feel about interventions over time. And finally, for dissemination, AI can adapt the same findings for different audiences. So basically, you can have your technical report, and without too much work, you could turn it into a policy brief, an infographic, or even a podcast script. I think this is all really exciting, and there's huge potential there. But I think there's also a need to understand maybe the limitations and figure out how these tools then actually work under the hood. Next slide, please, Federica. So, when you peel back the layers a little bit, when we talk about AI, at this point, we very much think about large language models. And large language models are essentially statistical prediction machines. They've been trained on vast data sets, so that's good and bad. Some of it is still in court unresolved, for example. But think your web content, books, scientific papers, social media. It's all been fed into training the machines. And how then they work is they learn patterns to predict the next most likely word in a sentence. So I think the key here to understand is that they're not knowledge bases. They're so-called stochastic parrots. They reconstruct language patterns without truly understanding what it is that they are throwing at you. So they operate probabilistically, which means also that putting in the same input can give you very different outputs. And they function as black boxes. Oh, Federica, it's the previous slide, please. We'll get to that in a second. So they function as black boxes. So they have billions of parameters, and even their developers often can't really fully explain how it is that they work or why it's generated that particular answer. In practice, there are three main AI capabilities that you have encountered or will encounter. Direct interaction, so those are like, for example, your chatbots, think ChatGPT, Claude AI, DeepSeek. Embedded AI and softwares you already use. If any of you are using an Outlook system, Microsoft Copilot has now at this point been launched as an integrated tool to help. Or think if you've been using Max QDA, the new coding features, those are all examples of embedded AI. And finally, automated workflows that can operate independently once they've been set up. What we have been saying in also the technical note is that we recommend thinking function over brands. The landscape has been changing so fast that focusing on specific software is less useful than understanding what you need and what capabilities you need. Can it handle the data volume? Does it work offline in a field setting? Does it handle sensitive information? What's the privacy like? And I think understanding these fundamentals helps see that where AI could maybe generally add value while recognizing its fundamental limitations. Next slide, please, Federica. So here I could really talk you through all of the bias, but I actually wanted to share a concrete example with you all that would maybe bring the challenge to life a little bit better. At CGIAR, a number of colleagues of ours recently tested 5 major AI models. So that was ChatGPT, Claude, Llama, and a couple of others, less well-known ones, with questions, approaching it sort of with questions that women farmers in India might ask the technology. So, for example, can I be a farmer? What resources are available to me? What barriers should I know about? And the results were quite revealing. While in theory, what was outputted, for example, sounded really good on paper, when it was shown to a gender expert on India, that's where, the problem started emerging. So in essence, while all models promoted gender equality in principle, they consistently fell into 3 problematic patterns. Firstly, they reinforced traditional gender stereotypes. So they positioned women as planners and caretakers, while men would handle the physically intensive work, if you will, despite research showing that women can perform all farming activities with equal access to training and tools. Second, they really did provided what you may call toxic optimism. So they stated that women can access land and inputs without acknowledging the harsh reality that only about 14% of rural land in India is owned by women, and mobility restrictions and decision-making exclusions persist until today. And lastly, all models fail to recognize changing realities. So in some states, there is a lot of male outmigration, which means that women are increasingly managing farms. But the AIs were all sort of recommending outdated tools and methods instead of maybe more up-to-date mechanized solutions that a woman might actually need to take over a farm. And this story isn't necessarily just about Indian agriculture, but it's, I think, a good example of showing how AI can amplify existing biases in training data and provide solutions that may not be grounded in reality. It's also why within the guide itself and within the technical note, itself, we keep advocating that human oversight and contextual knowledge remain absolutely essential. And it's also why we're emphasizing thoughtful integration with safeguards without losing sight of the human judgment that would make the work valuable. Next slide, please, Federica. And I believe I'm handing over to Silva.
Yes, indeed you are. I'm Silva. I'm an independent consultant I work a lot in both humanitarian development, also peacekeeping, in very participatory way. And I'm not a computer expert. So you may wonder why is she talking about AI? And I always stress that because we are living an exciting moment where um, learning how to use the AI requires nothing more than actually ask a simple question in the prompt. So really, you put in the data, as Leah explained so well, when you ask for sentiment analysis, there is not a big procedure to go through. You just ask, can you do a sentiment analysis of this? Can you redo it? Can you do it better? And I think it's very important to understand that all of us can experiment and can experiment straight away. And another important thing, again, Leah mentioned that not even the designer of AI know exactly what AI can do. And this is very important because it's up for us to discover as evaluators, as researchers, uh, can AI do something for me? And we know very well where we need help, where we would like to go deeper, and so on. So we have the use cases at hand, and it's very hard for other people to guess what is our need. So, keeping this in mind, we design a guide. It is not an encyclopedia that will tell you exactly how to use AI. It's just impossible. Next week there will be other tools, new challenge. The model are really changing at the speed of light. You probably noticed there is a lot of content already explain, list of bios, criteria for selecting an AI, and so on. It's very much a high-level checklist that can help you to start navigating. Okay, I'm asking for something. What are the likely bios? What are the likely challenge? What are the things I need to keep an eye on? And how those things will materialize in your own work will be different from many others. So it's really a navigation tool. And we need to navigate well because, yes, we are all in. We are, I think, enthusiastic about the possibility, but also very, very aware that things can go very, very wrong. So our role is really not so much learn how to use the software to do the analysis. This is not important. That's the easy part. Good news. But we need to know when to use, how to use. Is it okay to use it in this context? And there are tensions to navigate. Those are some examples. When we talk about use and regulation, for example, to what extent there should be regulation to the new model? To what extent an organization should have rules about how to use AI or not? Um, Basically, both extremes are wrong. So you cannot have full regulation, but you cannot also have a free for all. We need to have guardrails. And so the whole point is that it's not any longer a technical challenge only, but it's very much a governance challenge. And also that is attention to manage. There are in our process. Now, one thing is that we often think about AI as this thing where you put a good prompt and you get the right answer. We think very much in old software mode. Um, I personally think this is a very wrong way of looking at AI. You need to consider it as a companion, and you can have conversation and assistance along, and this is the other keyword, a process. So the point is really okay, we are not just doing a task, but we are doing an evaluation. At any point, we can choose if it's AI doing the interviews. Yes, it can do it very, very well. Or if it is us, if we want to have the first run at the data to really surface what we feel, or we want to have AI doing it. If we want to write the first draft of the methodology, or we want AI to do it. Where is it that we want to have our judgment and work first? When is it that we want to have AI? we need to be extremely good at seeing where the tension is, where we want to be, and to what extent we can control the output of the AI. The moment we start scaling up, it becomes harder. So maybe we can start checking, will it do a good job in summarizing this one interview? But then when we ask, can you summarize 1,000 interviews? How can we ever check? How is it that we, again, navigate the tension among scaling and quality insurance? So tons of tension, data privacy, transparencies of use, you name it, and we look at that. Next slide. So basically, what we promoted was very much a guidance on what competencies we need to have as evaluator and as organization working together using AI. And really, it's not just the technical competency. Of course, we need to have AI muscles. It's not even, learning a software, but it's really having a sense of trying it out, experiment, see what it can do for you or not. And as you try, you really get a sense of what AI can do, what are the areas where it's not performing well. All these, remembering that models are changing, by the second, every couple of weeks. Even if you use, I don't know, Claude, ChatGPT, the version you are using next week is different from the version you are using today. So it's very much about how having a feel for those tools rather than controlling them perfectly. We also need to have a key competency is to know what are the risk and the sensitivity. And for that, as Leah showed, we listed them, but more and more are being discovered, and more challenge are emerging as we use AI. To what extent our data are protected, to what extent they are processed in a way that is, loyal to the point of view of the people who express their own opinions. So, for example, if you are interviewing people living somewhere in a very isolated community in, let's say, Africa, with their own culture, their own tradition, they will express things with a mindset that is not the same mindset of the AI processing them. So we risk there to further colonize our work. Not only we are people from a different perspective sometimes, but we use tools that reinforce our perspective. So tons of questions at very high level. It's very important that we start building a toolkit. And as I said, it's about experimentation, it's about exchanging, it's about working on a prompt and say, hey, this works, I can use it next time, or this way of working is okay. I will create my toolbox. I will share it with my colleagues. It's so important that we keep track of that. Is how I said we want to design AI into the process and understand where we can use it, where it adds value, where is it better to use human, maybe to build relation, to get deeper insights. It becomes a hard call to design evaluation, knowing that basically AI can do every step of the job. I don't think now there is a step of an evaluation work that AI cannot do. So when is it that you want to use it? And when is it that we are better at that? And where is it that we can best leverage? We need to negotiate AI use, and this is super important. We need to sit at the table, not just at the beginning of an evaluation, but during, because it's during the evaluation that we will discover new way of working. So having this honest, ongoing conversation about where to use it, how is it going, and so on is super important, because we need to build a shared understanding of how AI has been used. It's for learning, it's for accountability, it's for explainability, and it's super important. A key skill will be supervising AI outputs, and supervision, you will see in the guide, is not just about checking that it understood the question or that is giving the right numbers. More and more, as AI does higher level job, we need to really question, is it using the right approach and methodology? Is it employing the right worldview? Should we change the perspective of the AI? And again, higher epistemological question level, like, can we use it here? If we use AI here, are we getting interesting results, or are we actually completely changing the nature of the process? So you will see tools that will help you to navigate this different level of supervision. And of course, then documenting, because as I said, we discover it in conversation, in opportunity. Many times I work with other colleagues and I see something and say, hey, let's see if AI could do it. And then it's about giving it back, seeing the limitation and designing it together. We need to be highly opportunistic, but we need to be very transparent about how and when we use it. For example, very basic example, AI can go from minor edits to writing all report. When we say we use AI for the report, we need to be very, very transparent if it was edits or if it was the full write-up. Same things when we look at data, was it just a first shot analysis, or to what extent we corrected, reframe, and rerun the analysis? Results will change, and now we can run the same analysis over and over and over. So documentation, explainability becomes a really crucial skill. So you will see it's not prescriptive, it's a set of competencies that allow us to explore. And I think I'm done.
Thank you. So we have the floor for questions or any clarifications, what you might need, or any comments, reflections.
Diana, yes, we have two questions in the chat.
Yes.
Hannah is asking how to prevent AI from sometimes inventing information instead of retrieving from sources. And Birgit says, thank you very much. This was a very important input which summarized or better systemized a lot of the discussions she had lately and which should be continued constantly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the nice comments. And Hannah, your question is very much welcome. I'm going to share with you now a case study, how we experimented with AI. And through that case study, one of the main breach will be exactly hallucination, what you mentioned. So if we do not have any other questions, I would be happy to present the case study and hopefully it will answer your question, Hannah.
Didier is asking, how would you approach the disclosing of using AI in evaluation?
I can tell you how I do it, because I do it all the time. I think we need to be transparent and say, I think there are still two group of people, some people that are very happy to disclose, some people maybe who are using it and afraid that we shouldn't use it. And I think we have a lot of this hidden AI use, when it edits the report, but hey, you don't need to write it up and so on. So I think, first of all, we need to disclose. But I see why some people don't, because I have no fear in saying I had AI writing part of the report, because people know I've done something else in between. But some people are afraid because there are organizations that would say, you should not have done it. So I think we need to open up for honesty. And I've been very, very happy and lucky to work with very honest people when I was working on evaluation. So the whole point is that not only at the end in methodology, but throughout the evaluation, I actually show to the commissioner, but I show to the people. So it happened many times to me that I was recording and transcribing within community, and I asked, I said, this is AI doing it, and you know how it ended. the community people said, this is so interesting. Do you mind after the interview showing us what will be done with this interview? I said, yeah, great. This is just at the level of transparency. So by showing and sharing with commissioner and with stakeholder, I ended up sharing capacities. I ended up validating insights, and I think having a much more honest approach to what happens to the information we gather and share. So I think it's an opportunity to be creative, to share, because also there are tons of colleagues that can learn from you. So the more we say, the moment we use it, we must share. And this is part of our duty. I think we can contribute to really improving the field of evaluation.
Finola is saying, thank you for a really interesting session. We are seeing a challenge that AI is learning about each user and changes the answers it gives us, depending on who is asking. So how can we make sure it will give the same answer no matter who is running the analysis? Or how can we trust what it gives back as the output?
Leah, you want to go? I go?
I'm happy to go. And sorry, I was going to say, sorry, Diana, I'm going to co-opt maybe the case study a little bit with this answer, because I also wanted to maybe answer Hannah's question too, which is how can we prevent AI from making up information? You can mitigate it. So I always ask, for example, if AI is retrieving information from me, to tell me exactly which document it took it from. So, I've given you now 3 reports. What information did you take? What piece of evidence from? And if it couldn't give me a source, I was basically asking it if it had made it up. And half of the time the answer was, oh yeah, actually, though, I did make it up. And then it's like, okay, what is actually in the reports? And can you give me a source? And then it would give me the bullet points with, oh, this report says this, that report says that. So I think that is one way to do it. Finola, last year we were doing a lot of experimentation. I'm normally UK based, so I had access to, for example, Claude before it was sort of EU approved. So we even had sort of a Claude versus Gemini confrontation for the same tasks, which was very interesting. What I had done is I really wanted a particular output. So, for example, I wanted to supplement my interview notes, my KAI notes. So I was then uploading a transcript to an AI, and this was a long process. I think it took me 3 months to really get this. At one point, I got interview notes out of the transcript in a way that I liked. So then I honestly asked the AI. I asked Claude, hey, I really like this last answer you gave me. Can you give me a prompt now that will give me as close, or even I think I even use the word like the same output as what you've just generated for me every single time? And it did some thinking, and it gave me a prompt that, to be honest, on Claude at least worked very well. On Gemini, we had mixed results. So I think you can literally ask the AI. That's the exciting part as well. When you finally get an output that you like, maybe you spent 2 hours really needling it, you can then go, hey, can you give me something that I can ask you again that will give me that particular answer consistently? It's not perfect. There have been some mistakes here and there, but yeah, the short answer is you can't. The longer answer is, well, you can get very close.
Yeah, and if I may add,
I hope that helps.
and I will take the next question also on that. It's really about understanding what the AI is. AI is not a researcher, it's a probabilistic method. Okay, so don't trust it to do research. Now they pretend to make it reasoning. It's getting much, much better to get sources, but it does not research as we do. And we need to be super clear about that. On personality, it's not just AI. Even when we were doing Google search, the result you have is different from the result I have because already Google was learning who we are. On AI, there are ways to sort of not disclose who you are and your full history. But there is another point for me is even, and there is the possibility of saying, hey, take it from the point of view of, a feminist evaluator, a result-based manager, something like that. And you can really play with that perspective, which is one of the most interesting part. But I think we need to reason in terms of paradigm, and we are a little bit fixated, I would say, that everything can be replicable. Bad news is not. We need to shift from, and it's not just about the AI, it's about reality. We need to shift from validity rather than replicability. In many cases, even if you redo the evaluation, the people you interview will tell you different things. The weather will be different. There will be minor things. Nothing is exactly replicable, even more so the analysis. So I think that the AI present us this because not even a machine can replicate things when we get to a certain level of complexity. So let's have some degree of replicability. Yes, we need to have more or less something that looks like that, but it will never be word by word. The quotes will never be the same. The tags will never be the same. The report will never be the same, which is perfectly fine as far as it is valid. And the more we know that it's not replicable, the more we will be able to fine tune and trying to push it to a direction that is important. So I really think that the fascinating part of using AI is really to think at this higher level. What about replicability? What does it say for evaluation? What about validity? Where we want to be? And AI can open up to this level of question.
Okay, thank you, Federica and everyone. I suggest that we go to the case studies, and if there are still questions, we answer it after the case study. Perhaps the case study will also shed some light on how to mitigate those risks.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be sharing a case study on how we used AI to support a large-scale evaluation at CGIAR. This was a broad real-time evaluation aimed at informing the design of CGIAR's new portfolio. It included 3 parallel science group evaluations, and we conducted over 300 interviews with a wide range of stakeholders. As you can imagine, this generated a large volume of qualitative data. We needed a way to process the transcripts and analyze the information efficiently, while, of course, maintaining high quality and transparency within the process. So that's where AI came in, and we started to test and experiment with AI. So what did we do? How did we do? And what were the lessons learned and the benefits? So we began by developing an interview template with the pre-filled evaluation questions. We used a traditional large language model, ChatGPT in this case, to clean the transcripts and extract key information from them. We then tested and standardized prompts to help AI pull out the most relevant insight to us. After the initial extraction, we conducted multiple layers of quality checks. So we didn't fully trust the information coming out from AI. To improve accuracy, we also asked ChatGPT to divide transcripts into sections to enhance clarity and include more relevant information. As you can imagine, 1 hour interview generates like 60 pages of transcripts, and it really helped us to chunk those transcripts with the help of ChatGPT to get out relevant and more information for us. Once the data was cleaned and aggregated, we uploaded it to MaxQDA, where we organized it against key themes. Of course, safeguards were essential. One of the biggest risks with AI was, mentioned also by Hannah, is hallucination, where actually AI gives you inaccurate information, and it even does in a very convincing manner. So you are very tend to believe that it's true, but actually it's not. And of course, in the field of evaluation, we cannot fabricate evidences. To address this, we conducted parallel analysis. Our analysts worked to validate the AI-generated insights. Quality checks included by comparing the extracted information with written meeting minutes from other team members. So how you need to imagine in practice, we conducted the interview, and then the analysts worked on the transcripts, and they were also present in the interviews. They were taking meeting minutes, they understood the context, and as soon as they generated the clean transcripts and the insight with the help of standardized prompt with ChatGPT, they were cross-checking it with the meeting minutes, and also the interview was still fresh to them, so they really understood if there were biases. This is not exactly what the interviewee said, and where the hallucination lies. And just a very quick tip, what we also did is simply we built into the prompt, do not hallucinate. We just gave this additional comment to the prompt, not to prevent it from hallucination. In cases where questions weren't clearly answered, we used conversational prompts to guide the AI back to the text and double check. So, for example, we had a cross-cutting question on gender, and where we have seen that in the output there was nothing related to gender. Then we went back and asked ChatGPT with a prompt to zoom into the topic and to see if any information was omitted. So, in short, this triangulation process was key for us. It allowed us to see what was emerging from the AI and compare it with insights coming from other independently analyzed sources. And I also need to tell you here that it is really crucial to do it in this way and to inbuild quality assurances, because we don't even have a skill set of, I don't know, data scientists or AI specialists. So what we need to do here is to experiment, test, document, and work on our processes. And this right now it goes with strong quality check. We also ensure data protection by anonymizing transcripts, removing names and organizations, and assigning codes that could still support disaggregated analysis. All data was securely stored and access controlled throughout the process. One major benefit of this approach was helping to turn a really labor-intensive manual process into something much faster and more reliable by making sure that no evidence was lost. Given the varying levels of expertise that I have already mentioned across our team, standardization was critical to ensure consistency throughout the process. So by combining AI with strong human oversight, we built in the necessary checks and balances to ensure the quality and credibility of our findings. AI gave us here the speed and scale that we needed, while our human experts ensured the insight remained grounded and valid. So, to sum up, using AI helped us to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and quality as well, while still putting people at the heart of the evaluation process. So I think I stop here. This was let's say not so transformational, but an everyday use of AI into our evaluation. So again, if we have any questions or if you want to share, we would be also very happy if any participants want to share how do you integrate AI in your work, or yeah, to make it more interactive, or we just take some questions.
Diana,
Yes.
there were some questions from Petra, Didier, and Birgit in the chat. But I don't know who else was intervening.
I would be very happy to take Petra's question and sort of tag on something for Bridget at the end. Petra is asking about the analysis of raw data using AI. I'm going to be very transparent here. A few months ago, I was given 3 days to write a report for someone. And, you know, you get promised that, oh, you'll have 3 days to write this report, but you'll get everything, you know, all the data will be already be coded, will be analyzed. You just have to look at it and write. As you can imagine, that was not quite the case. So we got a lot of data that wasn't coded, wasn't analyzed, wasn't even, so I think some of the survey was, we just sort of had raw numbers. We didn't have anything reworked. And I got a little overly confident. So I was just like, you know what? Great. I can throw this into an AI, speed things up, get things going a little bit faster because I only have 3 working days. Half a day in, I was looking at the results and I was going, that does not quite look right. And I realized that there were major mistakes very quickly. So I ended up scrapping it all, doing it manually. And then, I mean, I have dyslexia, so I sometimes use AI to make sure that, you know, my grammar and sentence structure is correct at the very end. And then I sort of used it how I'd been using it in the past. I think AI for analysis at this point, based on my experimentation over the last few years, and especially this overconfident moment that I had a few months ago, it can be done. I think some algorithms are better than others. So for example, Claude really doesn't do numbers. ChatGPT does do numbers. Claude is better with text. ChatGPT is not so great with text. I haven't really been able, for example, to test the autocode functionality of MaxQDA because that was a package that was above what I had access to. In short, I think it can help. I still think at this point there's value in doing all of the first steps manually. So I think, for example, for KIIs, I would still recommend doing the coding manually. You can then use AI to get more insights from what you've coded or get summaries or things like that, but I wouldn't quite trust it to do it manually at this moment. And Birgit, sorry, the engaging with training in AI communities. Last year, it was very much like, who is having a talk? So the European Evaluation Society started doing free talks on AI, inviting, for example, Estelle Raimondo from the World Bank, and other sort of Merletech and others, and those were sort of like free and accessible. Silva did a great workshop at IAES as well on using AI, and they have sort of coffee hour now where they invite IAES members to go and talk about their experimentation with AI and evaluation. I'm sure Silva can mention a lot more than I can. They're around. You just have to keep a bit of an eye out.
Yeah, I would definitely Mertech and Linda after they are doing fantastic work. And then a lot is happening on, you know, LinkedIn, social and so on, because many things are really literally changing by the day. but I do suggest that you need to try. So it's really this building an AI muscle. So at the beginning, get a transcript of an interview and see what comes out, and because you are in control and you know what to expect. And then when you've done with one, you can start having two or three, or you can become more ambitious, you know. I think it's very much about trying it out, see what do you expect, because it's very different how I would analyze an interview from how Leah would analyze an interview, for example. So as you start playing safe, you get a sense. It's very hard. I think I develop an instinct on this will fly, this will not, and so on, because if you keep on doing, you have a sense of what can work or not. And there are moments now where I can give a full big data set, and you know, I'm not afraid, because I can, instead of processing for 3 hours and getting one view of the data, I can just process in 20 different ways and get an insight. So it's also different how you understand if things are working or not, because it's much more about overall coherence of analysis, for example, than checking one by one, for example. You really start developing different way to validate, and an instinct and an understanding. And as evaluators, we are uniquely positioned. To many people, I wouldn't just say go experiment without giving tons of warning. But we are evaluators, and we know how to interpret reality. We know how to ask questions, how to look into the answer. So we are one of the group who is best positioned to safely experiment if we take the chance. That's why it's so important that we do it.
Thank you so much, Silva and Leah. Do we have any other questions, Federica? We have still 3 minutes left. I don't see any more questions, so
Yeah, I think Leah and Silva addressed those questions.
Great.
Has the usage of AE made evaluations costs more affordably in some way? Ivona is asking just now.
You know what? It will, because it can do evaluation instead of evaluator. That's my usual rant. More and more, an AI can do a conventional evaluation, doing most of the work with an evaluator supervising. So if evaluation remain the same, definitely will cost less, and it will be much more automatic. I think, though, that we need to question what are evaluation at the time of AI and what we want an evaluation to be. So now that we have an AI and we could do different things, when is it that we want to have, you know, a quick and dirty evaluation where I've done it. You run a questionnaire, you put it on AI, AI does all the interviews for you, you quickly process and so on, and literally in 3 days you could have a report that look, with okay and being okay, 60 qualitative interviews. Okay, so is of course the cost is it can be less. But when is it that we want to have it? When is it that we want to be on the ground? When is it that we want to teach the people we work with in the process how we use AI? So I think if it becomes just a cost thing, many of us will be out of job soon, and this will be quite sad. If it becomes something about the nature of the evaluation, then I think we can really discover a super interesting way of working that could cost more sometimes. Sometimes I take more to use AI because I start playing with the data from so many different angles, but the quality is much, much higher. So yeah, let's think cost, evolution, quality in a bigger picture together. AI can do the interviews because you have software like Qualia. Qualia's been great, and you know, you put the question and it's like instructing the software as if you would do with enumerator going on the ground. You give an idea and say, ask more or less those 4 questions, but then try to explore this angle, look at that, go in this direction, and so on. So you basically give instruction to the AI, and the AI follow up on question, and it's fascinating. So there is a lot of software doing it. There are some that have avatar even, there are chat box that are more structured. Is a huge field, and developing also very, very fast. But where is it that you need to be there? Because relationship matter.
Okay, thank you so much, Silva. I think you managed to answer a lot of questions. And thank you also for Lea answering all these questions. I see some questions coming up in the chat. I don't know, Federica, we still have time to maybe to answer them, or we just get back to the...
No, I think they've addressed them, and there were some comments, but I've shared the link to the publication to learn more.
Great.
And yeah, we can say that we encourage feedback, so please reach out.
Absolutely. And this was just a short introduction, but if you go to our method notes, this is a little bit of compass, what we put together for the evaluators. It's not a how-to guide, so you won't find, exact step by step how to do things, but there are a lot of prompts available, suggestions for AI technologies. So I really encourage you to see our AI method, technical note. And if you have any questions, just please let us know. Feel free to reach out, and we are getting back to you with an answer for sure. Thank you. Thank you for joining.